Bergen says he was a diploma in social work and helps out in the community, but since being sacked by Canberra in 2013, the news about him has always been negative. There's more devastation for Kiwi motocross rider Courtney Duncan as her World Championship season once again ended in bad fortune. 22-year-old was on the cusp of winning the title this year with a 21-point lead over her nearest rival. However, the title chase, she's been advised to take 3 months off, meaning she'll miss the remaining 2 rounds in Europe. This is the 3rd consecutive year she's been cruelly denied. Hugely respected Whitefern skipper
last one and I loved it, so thanks very much.
Good, I'm so pleased. Yeah, I guess that's what it's all about, just trying to share practice and encourage each other in the changes that we're making throughout New Zealand. It's really exciting.
It is really good. It's really good, so thanks very much.
No problem. Okay, anyone else want to come up and say hello? Any other brave people out there that aren't hiding away? Goodness me, look at them all. Everybody's hiding.
I think I would too if I could.
It's funny, when I first started, I was really nervous. I've kind of got used to it now, so I'm really proud of myself. I'm not so worried about it now, but I used to get really, really nervous. Yeah. Hi, Catherine. Thank you for showing your face.
Hi.
Hi, where are you from?
I'm from Auckland, North Shore in Auckland. I teach at Long Bay Primary. So.
Okay, very cool.
I teach at Long Bay Primary. I got year 2s and 3s. Sorry, it's my daughter saying hi.
So what have you been up to today?
So today I've got I've actually got a student with me at the moment, so that's kind of like an extra challenge to show some cool stuff as well. So sort of trying to model and make it easy for her to kind of copy as well. And but yeah, I'm quite interested in adapting science, like play in science and maths, so not just and sort of motivating kids to write and stuff through science. So
science is just so good for that, eh? It will be posted later. So Anne asked, a friend can't get her sound to work. Oh, that's a shame, isn't it?
Oh, I know, Anne.
But yeah, we'll post it later for sure. We'll always do. So yeah, no problem there. So hopefully she can keep on trying, eh? So that's good. You already started play and you're on your journey. So that's wonderful. Okay, well, it's 7:34, so we're going to get started. I'm going to just mute a few people here. Oh, not you.
Well, why not?
So the etiquette is just, if you're not talking, can you mute? We don't mind seeing your beautiful faces. I really love seeing that there's real people out there and not just a blank in a name. Hi Lynette, how are you? Nice.
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good. Have you had a good day?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Well, lovely to see you. Yep, really full on, but a good day for sure. Okay, so I'd like to just welcome Lesle Allan. And where have you gone, Lesle?
I'm here.
You can't see.
I am here.
Oh, good. Oh, there you are.
I can't see myself. I can see Barb's name.
Okay, so when I speak, can you see me?
Yes.
Cool. So it's working as it should. So like a huge welcome. I've wanted to meet you for some time now and also run a webinar with you. You go to Kauri Hohori School. I hope I have pronounced that right since it's Te Reo Week. for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tara O'Neill and I teach at Hayata Community Campus in Christchurch. So I'm zooming in from Christchurch this evening, and Leslie is from a little place called Carmel, but I'll let her introduce herself. Yeah, off you go, Leslie.
Awesome. Okay, so yes, Lesle Allan at a school called Kauri Hohori, which stands for the white marked Kauri, but none of us can find the white marked Kauri, but that's where it is, somewhere around here. We are just out of Kamo, just out of Whangarei, so we're rural but close to town. Lifestyle blocks. So it used to be farm, now it's lifestyle blocks. We have 210 children at our school, year 1 to 6, 10 classrooms. And our school's always been quite, well, since I've been here, values and disposition based, thinking based school, rather than, so key competencies basically. So driving innovative stuff has always been quite easy around here, so yeah, my job's made easier in that way. So I've been teaching for 20 years now, and the last 10 years as a teaching principal. 3 days I don't have to teach, I choose to teach, which is, yeah, so that's us at the school. And in our class we have 45 children, 3 of us 4 days a week, and 1 day a week they sail along with 2. And just everyone knows the staffing story, I'm sure, of how hard it is to resource that. We have 2 prefabs, really old prefabs joined together that make quite a big space, but we have a huge outdoors, so we are also very lucky that most of our learning does take place outside. So that's us.
So when you say they're allowed outdoors, is there a boundary around where they're allowed, or is there some expectation about when they're in class with that?
Yeah, so there's an ever expanding boundary that from our journey has got quite large, but it is within the viewpoint most of the time, unless they're in the bush in their huts, and then you can't see them at all. So you have to guess how many children may be hiding in the bush area generally. But they just move a photo to say they're outdoors. And one of us frequents the outdoors. But they do have a defined boundary, and they have expectations of behaviour out there. And if they let themselves down, then they just lose the right to be out there for a bit. Yeah, it seems to work.
So in your class of 45, what ages are there?
They're new 5 and some 6, 6'2", 6'3". Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. So can you share with us some of your story of how you got into play-based learning? How long have you been working on this thing called play-based learning?
Play-based probably since 2015, but our journey really started in 2013 when we had an inquiry around engagement and motivation. We had some learners that we thought we did inquiry really well, and we did a lot of the time, but a lot of our children were quite disengaged in the inquiry process, and we felt it was something we were doing to them. We stumbled upon a process called Mantle of the Expert,
Right.
which is where children are elevated to experts within an imagined company in a dramatic world where they have a problem to solve as a responsible team. We had a play around with that, and the change in our kids was incredible. And so we dabbled in that. And in that essence, Number Agents was born in that 2013 era out of Mantle, because I could see how well it worked for, if you're going to say inquiry, but what if I just posed it with one curriculum area in mind? And at that stage my children weren't that old, and Numberjacks and all those programs were still on my radar, so it was me working out how I could bring heroes and villains into my classroom. From that we just saw how playful that approach was. We didn't really go any further with that until 2015, and I'm lucky because I'm the principal too, so the review was around the vocab of children entering school, something that I think everybody notices. So really poor vocab, what we'd say is a rise in processing disorders that we were constantly trying to diagnose and get speech language therapists in for, and just pulling our hair out about. And we did I did a little bit of research and thought perhaps let's try an hour a day to go out for a foundation class. At that stage, the foundation class was oral language, social emotional stuff, friendships, talk to learn basically. That was so successful that we decided let's stick a teacher and a teacher aide in there with our 10 children for a day a week, base it around play, with a social emotional dispositional focus, and see how it goes. And the results were brilliant in terms of the growth in resilience and confidence, the growth in oral language. Processing disorders tended to disappear. They didn't exist in the first place. It was just developmental. And so I couldn't really deny the fact that the only different thing was that they were playing and largely self-directing within that play with a teacher coach and a teacher aid coach.
Right.
So that's where that was born. I just couldn't deny that. But at that time, I very much felt that class was it. The others didn't need play. We were within a traditional new entrant. They were ready for school, and the others were out because they weren't ready. That was why I did it. It wasn't out of any, I'm not some sort of genius that's done research and thought, wow, this is going to work. I actually did it completely selfishly, thinking I need someone to fix this. And so I stuck with my traditional stuff and they stuck with their play, but I couldn't deny the results of those children. So that's where that journey started in 2015. And so over end of 2015, 2016, we just started to introduce play more into the classroom. It became quite entrenched in what we did and quite fluid, and I just really let it happen. We discarded the stuff that was fluff. So the bits that were management, the bits that we thought we're actually doing this to the kids to keep them quiet. We thought, 5-year-olds thrive on routine. Let's have routine. You hear that all over the place. And yes, they do. They need boundaries, but that's different from us imposing a routine. So we gradually let those go. We let go of task boards. We let go of reading responses. We let go of all the things that we'd done, and just saw how powerfully they could self-direct. So it just gradually happened from there. We also did discovery time, and that was a really nice segue into play. However, it wasn't child-directed. At that stage, I didn't understand that concept completely. So although we had the junk shed, and that was that we were also imposing tasks on them, which they liked, but it wasn't self-directed. But it also was really powerful in showing us how joyful learning could be, how the age ranges could mix together. The junk shed was incredible because we started opening at lunchtime originally, and the older kids were there, like they were there. They just loved it. It was their thing. So that was cool. And in 2017, we started having empty classroom day, which the whole school self-directs for the day. And that was really cool because the seniors got to see how they could do it, how seniors, children, the behaviour wasn't bad, they could be trusted. They've built a huge hut last empty classroom day, so it's just spiralled. So that's kind of my journey. Hopefully that explains it a little bit.
It's an amazing journey. Can I just take you back to the mantle? Like, can you tell us a little bit about where you found it? Like, is that who invented Expert of the Mantle? What is that?
It was originally Dorothy Heathcote in the UK. It's a really big UK process that they do use. It's one of the things that's come out of their system that is really useful. Viv Aitken drives it here, and Tim Taylor over there. I sound bad, but academically I agree with a lot of what they do, but Mantle is awesome. So we read a book called Connected Curriculum, and in that there was an article written by Viv Aitken around Mantle the Expert, and it sounded like what we were already doing, but with bits that we were missing, and the bits we were missing were the intrigue, and the hooks, and really, really getting deeply into elevation as the experts are taking that stress of not knowing away, because we were already saying, well, hang on, you're in this company and you're actually an expert, here's all your awards and certificates, so you're already trusted to do this. And the drama, because none of us were dramatic, and I'm the last person to say I'm dramatic at all, has been transformative for our school, and we've all got quite good at using it in our classrooms, although we still can be, some of us, quite reserved. I mean, I go over the top now. It's not a requirement, but you know, I've become quite familiar in the process. Yeah.
So the drama, so it's like setting up a sort of a play scenario and acting.
Yeah, so you'd have some sort of hook or provocation into a world. It may be the children get an emergency call. An emergency call comes over the TV, and it's you can only hear parts of it, and they're not sure where it's from, and they keep getting these hooks that would allude to the fact that perhaps they have some capabilities as a team. So when I hook into number agencies, we start getting problems that are all maths based, and slowly we work out that, hey, someone's sending these for a reason, we must be experts within this. By that time they're hooked into the world, and then you would introduce lots of different characters that will deliver problems for them to solve, commissions, and it's a really great way of exploring real life situations within an imagined world, which takes the gives authenticity without taking away the fun.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not unlike what kids are doing online with, you know, like maybe not Minecraft, but what's the one, Fortnite? Like, it's like they've got an online world, but you're doing it in the real world.
Yes, and you have all sorts of gadgets. Like one of our teachers is just really creative, and she had Twitter and all sorts in her class. I mean, it's all imagined, and it comes in on lines of string, and it's you have pretend phones and iPads and all these gadgets that you can create, but it's all, they can come up with anything they like within their world. But the what their commission requires of them is to develop some sort of professional knowledge and able to deliver that commission. So there's where your curriculum comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. The other part of your journey, I felt like you've been on a journey to sort of get the balance between, like you talk about it being authentic to, or I don't know if you use those words, but child initiated, as opposed to when you started Discovery, you said that was teacher initiated.
Yeah.
How do you see your balance now? Like, what do you think is the most effective? Is it when the children initiated, or is it when the teacher initiated, or?
We have I guess it's a balance, but it's probably not even. It's heavily weighted to self-initiated, but we do have teacher-initiated tasks within our room. Obviously, we do still do reading with those that are ready. We do still write with those that are ready, and we obviously do maths through number agents. So number agents is not child directed, is very much playful, but I am in charge, although I'm part of that world. They are agents on level with me, so we are creating the world together, but I do have a plan in my head of where it's going, obviously, whereas when we're playing, I don't have a plan in my head of where that's going, but if I find an interest, I will leap in and perhaps provide a little bit of a provocation or an invitation around that to explore further, and then leap out again. Mm-hmm. So it's a fine balance. We still do art, we do things like that, so there's still teacher directed moments within our week. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Can I just share something with you?
Yeah.
I'm just going to share my screen. So I'm just interested to see. Can you guys see that now? By any chance? Can you? Oh.
Yeah, I can.
So can you see that continuum?
Yeah.
So it goes from unstructured down the left-hand side to highly structured up here, and in the middle it's got child-initiated play, and then focused learning. And it's the difference between the two are the adult supporting the enabling environment, and then the focused learning is where the adult is guiding playful experiential activities.
Yeah.
We use this to sort of explain the range of different play types within the learning environment and how important it is to have lots of different ones. But I lots of different focuses for kids, but I actually got this off the English early childhood curriculum, and then adapted it a little bit. But basically what you're talking about is you have a range of different learning opportunities for children. Do you do any highly structured stuff? Like, what place would you put your highly structured?
Probably
when you go to teach your reading,
one-to-one reading would be the most structured we would get, and
right.
They only go engage in that when they're developmentally ready.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that is initiated. We had one child who was just so excited to be ready for reading. He'd initiated it every day, and we only read with him twice a week, but we couldn't resist. We had to read with him every day because he was phoning Papa and reading the book to him. So, we decide when they're developmentally ready, but if they're not interested, we still won't do it.
Absolutely. But then that child is initiating that.
Yes.
So to them, they're in charge. They are leading the learning. So I would say that was down there, eh? But, So, what about maybe now describe a typical day?
Okay, all right, typical day. If there's any such thing. Anyway, okay, so a typical day starts at 9, typically with play. So we just are inside self-directing play. Occasionally we may put some items out that we perhaps think they will be interested in. There may be a table with bits and pieces they haven't used for a while, and we think, if we put those out, what will they do? There's no requirement to do anything. There's no signs to say, put 10 in the basket. There's nothing of that nature. They're just bits and pieces that perhaps look attractive and may invite them into further investigation, and really an emphasis on teamwork. We want items that not necessarily, we want to encourage them, although playing alone is a part of their developmental journey, we do want to try and give them situations where we are encouraging them to work with others so that we can, because our heavy focus is social emotional. So activities that will encourage that may be placed around on tables. We don't have many tables and we don't have many chairs at all. So it's So during that time, the three of us have 3 to 4 children a day that we check in with, and they're our developmental check-ins. And so in that time, the children are inside playing so that we can know where everyone is, get to them quickly if we need them for their check-ins. It takes us about 5 minutes per child. And they've all got different goals, and once that's done, may take half an hour, depending on how much interruption we've had, or if we've wanted to do something else, or we've had assembly in the morning, or whatever has gone on that morning. Then when that's finished, we'll come for our whāraki time. Usually starts with a couple of waiata that we've learned. Love waiako, we use that all the time. And we'll waiata together and just be together as a class and enjoy being together on the mat. Then it might be, this is where it's fluid, so this will be where it might be what's on top. So if the day before we've been interested in the rocks, I might start with something, inviting them into further discussion around that. Yesterday it was spiders, because we've got a web that I've made out of Kmart placemats up on our wall, and it's gradually evolved and now it's got a spider in it. So just joining in discussions around there. Might be a quick YouTube that we watch just to provoke further thought. All that time may be used for growth mindset. We're heavily into that. Or it might be used social emotional coaching. Yesterday, while I had some time just wandering around when I'd finished my check-ins, I just honed in on a couple of kids that we want to learn how to invite a friend into play. So I used them as examples and talked about the body language they'd use to invite a friend into play, how they didn't initially have to do it with their words, that it could just be a smile and open body language. We talked about what body language was. Or it might be emotions. That's another thing we were heavy on, emotional coaching. So during that time, any of those things could take place. We just call it what's on top. 15 minutes all up, if that. We don't like to keep them long. Then they move into play, which is inside or outside. So they move their photo to outside if they're going out. And that time, one of us can rove and the other two can be catching up with individual readers. We only do readers twice a week, so we have 21 who are reading at the moment. So we divide those in half. So those are the kids we have to get to. That doesn't have to all happen in that section of the day. Sometimes we'll have caught them before the bell, just to give us a little bit of time up our sleeve, particularly our really interested ones. And so that happens during that time. Generally, that time's quite extended. We go from 9 to 11, so about 10:45, 20 to 11, we'll come back to the whāraki, and that's genuinely for phonics. Phonics, it changes every day. It's just something we may have seen it in a Dakota War book, something that has happened, some rule that we've explored and we think, hey, that'd be really useful to introduce to all of them. We do watch alpha blocks. We love alpha blocks. I don't know whether anyone else has seen it, but they're really awesome. We're just teaching that a letter is a symbol for a sound, and we do heavy focus on that, and it's all basically out loud. Sometimes in the week we will get the whiteboards out and we'll practice on stretching sounds. We do all of that together, so we do, all 45 of us come for phonics time, even though they're at different stages and places in their learning. We find that the alpha blocks and all that nice segue into it if they're not quite ready anyway, and they're quite happy because they've been playing for so long, they're really focused, so they come to the mat. Yeah, that's morning tea time. After morning tea, we spend time doing number agents, which is generally 40 to 45 minutes. They impress anyone that comes to watch of how long they will focus in number agency time. However, I mean, it's fluid world. They're not sitting there the whole time just focusing on me. And it takes us, if we have a little bit of time, we'll read a chapter book before lunch, or we'll play a game, we'll sing a song. Generally, we fill moments in with reflections on the play, photos we've taken, talking about the learning, talking about what we've seen, what's been really great. We might coach a problem that it's quite common, like what happened in the situation, what could we have done, how did it make us feel. We use those little times where we've got moments to do some social emotional coaching. Or at the moment we're reading Amelia Jane, and we're on our second book, and they love it. Those big naughty dolls, you should see their faces, they just love it. So they'll listen to a chapter in one sitting. They wouldn't stop me. So yeah, that, and then after lunch is definitely our reading together time. We read Amelia Jane. At the moment they would like to have Charlotte's Web after that because of the spider in the classroom. So it's 10-15 minutes just listening. Chapter books are so important that they see that there's books and there's no pictures, and it's actually the words giving us meaning. And then it's play. During that time, I may pull out a writing group, or we may come together and do some storytelling, which will be just an out loud story that our puppet may tell. We have an enchanted tree that likes to story tell, and he's very forgetful. He'll start the story, but they will leap in and add the detail. They don't even realise they're doing it themselves. And they love him. They absolutely adore Edward. And then they'll draw a story. And we just call it drawing a story. We don't go any further with that. The ones that are ready will write. We don't even have to tell them to do that. So it's either storytelling or a group. We try to catch our groups at least once a week and have a storytelling session once a week, so 2 sessions a week. Then we have just a massive mahi time of tidying up, because we only tidy up once a day, and it can be an absolute, hello Laura, it can be an absolute mess. There's Laura, she teaches with me. She should be on this end, should she not? It can be massively messy, and that's one of our challenges at the moment, is encouraging that responsible tidying. And then after that we do interest reading, where they all sit down. We're really lucky that my kids have grown old, so I've got older teenagers, so I've got loads of picture books. It's like having our own private library. They're all organised into interest areas, and they just take a box, they browse at a box, they take one home and they bring it back, and the parents get a poster about what to do with that book. Just its love of reading, it's sharing it. If they don't want to share it, they don't have to. And then basically it's home times, some songs, and that's us.
Wow, sounds amazing.
It can be amazing.
It can also be really like chaotic, right?
Yeah, it can. Herding cats.
Just one of the things you keep talking about is readiness. Can you just I think it would be really good now just to talk a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try the share the screen thing, Tara. Okay, where's my Google thingy gone? You'll have to tell me if...
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so how do I move my photos? Oh, here they are. So this is my Number Agent blog, if anyone's interested. This journey is on here. So you probably didn't need to listen to me. You could just come and read this. Developmental goals is there. These are the goals I'm talking about when I say we check in with them. So each child has one of these goals. And you see these. I'm making sure this is freely available, free to anyone on my blog. It's nothing, anyone can use it as long as you credit for where it's come from. It doesn't bother me. And so they just progress through these goals. Gross motor, fine motor, working memory. We're checking for eye dominance, checking for patterns, all of that kind of awareness, out loud patterns, visual patterns, singing nursery rhymes for that working memory. Then we're moving into early literacy, and then we're off and away with reading. So that's our sequence of goals, which has come from, this when it comes up. Can you see that? So this was based on a talk I went to from Nathan Wallace, and he just resonated with me. He already had resonated with me, but when he talked about the brain being a house and building the foundations from the bottom, it ticked all my boxes in terms of what I was looking for. This was last year. It's 2017 at the bottom, but and really resonating with, actually, am I feeling safe and happy in this place? I don't think a lot of the time my children that came into traditional classroom, although I did my absolute best, perhaps felt safe and happy within there because they were not ready to be there. I wasn't ready for them. That was the actual plain and simple truth, and my environment wasn't ready for them. Gross motor skills, that movement and the relationship to the brain, the left-right crossing over, it's building the reading writing brain. If it's not in place, the point of reading is not there, and so that has to come next. Then the fine motor skills, if my hand's not strong, I'm not going to want to write. I can't write. It's really tricky for me to be able to do things. Our year 3-4 boy writers that we worry about because they stall, well, that's why they stall, because they haven't got that. So they get to a certain point and then I've got not that gross motor or fine motor in place. Perhaps I've got a left-right confusion, and that's where a lot of our processing mixed dominance comes in. Processing disorder can be confused with mixed dominance, so if I haven't got a dominant side, and all of that. There's so much research around all of that. I won't bore everyone with that, but then looking at the dispositions, they're really, really important for us. So if they come through at the same time, we're always developing those in a play-based. And then am I interested in moving on from there? So that's where the little goals come from. And then I have another model for literacy development that takes over kind of from there, or sits alongside, whatever you like to put it, because I believe, everyone if you read anything about literacy, it's the sound, it's the understanding, it's communication, it's the being able to speak. It's all of that that is key to reading and writing. So we have to get those right. So I've just got, part of the developmental progress and play-based environment, all those bottom areas are going to be developed really strongly. We have to know we're focusing on them. We can't just think it's going to happen, and that's where the trick comes in, of looking like we don't know, but actually we do know where we're going with it, and then moving on into directly teaching when they are developmentally ready. And I call them developmentally ready when I feel their growth, fine, working memory, social, emotional, dispositional is there. That is my definition of readiness, and may not be everyone else's definition of readiness. Yeah.
So anywhere between the ages of 5, like what would be your latest child that's not reading yet?
We've nearly 6.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not bothered. The developmental goals will go through to the next room as well. Most of them will pick up a book with us by the time they're 5, 6, 5, 7. That would be a normal. However, we're very lucky at our school. We have really great parents who have engaged strongly with their children, often too much, and that's my journey at the moment, is to try to explain what pushing looks like and why it's not okay. But we are very lucky. We have children that do come in traditionally in the terms of, yes, we could actually, most of them would be fine in a traditional room, but they flourish in a play-based space because it's the other side of the child you're developing.
So many people worry about the whole reading and writing and maths, but it doesn't sound like, that well, actually, let me rephrase that. Many people, including teachers and parents, worry about reading and writing and that they begin at 5. So what's your view on that?
Well, I held that view too, and that was a view quite well cemented in me. And it took me being really open with myself and very honest with myself in terms of who was I doing this for. I was doing it so our children had good levels. I was doing it so the parents were appeased, but I wasn't doing it for the children. At no stage was me engaging on day 1 with a new entrant test helpful for that child. I put them in a stressful situation. I now know about stress and what it does to the brain and what it does to my ability to problem solve and all of that. So my opinion on that is that a child will be ready when they're ready and interested when they're interested, and they will get there. And we still have our moments, Laura and I, and just like, oh my God, we go back to our traditional thinking, this kid should be doing this. And then we take a big deep breath, don't we, Laura? And we go, it's okay, they'll be okay. The general rule of thumb is they write incredibly well. They love storytelling. They understand the point of it. Their stories are no longer, I went to the beach. They're no longer boring. They understand the purpose for writing. So once they have that code, they are off. They're really interested in the code. No child I have met doesn't want to learn to write. They want to mimic adults. They want to do it. They're not ready, then they're not ready, but they will when they are. And they're so incredibly interested in reading. Absolutely want to read. So once they're ready, it will happen. And most of our children then skip over into yellow, blue, green, and it's fine. And what we don't have now is the kids stuck on magenta. And that was our issue not a long time ago, a few years back. She'd have this child and he was on magenta. Oh yeah. Now what did that do to him? And so I was pushing a barrow for my sake, but not the child's. So we have to trust in the brain research and in the research around play, because it is huge. You only have to Google it to find it, and we've ignored it for a very long time.
Well, thank you for your honesty. And I think probably one of your secrets of your success is that you are really honest in your professional approach to your teaching, and you're always asking yourself questions, and you're trying to really look and search for the real answers instead of just going along with the flow. which is
Yeah.
amazing. Catherine Aitken asked, you talk about the teacher as a coach. Could you describe what this looks like, please?
Oh, well, so it's, I guess, in terms of a teacher being a coach, it would be not engaging overly, but sitting back and watching. So like you would in a sports game. So similar to if they were playing, you'd watch them playing, and you'd watch perhaps what was going wrong or right, and then you'd choose the opportune moment to just kind of spray and walk away. And I love that term. Just some talking about perhaps terms of emotional coaching that happens a lot. So you look like you're having some big feelings there, or you look sad, or not trying to put that word in. How are you feeling? Why are you feeling that way? And getting that out, and then what could we have done differently? Or coaching could look like not intervening, taking a photo, and then as a group sitting down and talking about the awesome stuff that was going on in there and why it was awesome and how we were sharing and turn taking, and that we don't have to share if we've got something. It's ours and we're playing with it, and no one has the right to take it off us. But if we're being a friend, perhaps it would be kind to have a turn and then let it go so that someone else. So understanding friendship. So coaching in terms of just seeing what needs developing and finding ways either individually or in a small group or as a whole class. And usually it works as a whole class because they all need it, and they learn so much from each other's situations. Yeah.
So academically, so someone said here, Charlotte Owen said, so how did you move that child from Magenta? Was it the play that made the progress, do you think? So, like, I guess what she's asking is, do you coach academically in the play? Or is that mainly through your group work?
We can coach academically in the play, but generally only with our kids that are interested. So the children that are writing, we perhaps will sit down and talk about A sound, that kind of thing, word families, things they're ready for. And often our children are taught far above what I would previously have taught. We'll talk about similes, alliteration with them, all those things if they're ready. So there is some academic coaching. Often they'll be engaging in maths through play, which happens a lot. So it can be talking about heaviest, things like that can happen. The boy on Magenta took a long time to move, and it wasn't me that moved him, and he's still being moved. So what I'd created was a real resistance to learning. And so we've had to work on undoing that. Luckily, we have classes also moving into play-based further up the school, so we have an opportunity to do that. Luckily, we all are starting to understand that developmental process a lot more. And so, so we just, in essence, we don't have those children stuck on a Magenta anymore because we don't engage with them in that way anymore. That boy is making progress now, and he is making it at his own stage and age and where he's up to, and doing really well in writing and things.
Can you give us an example of maybe some of the play that he's engaging with that would support him in that? Just thinking about that boy.
That boy, just thinking about who is no longer with me, but that boy needed lots of team social emotional stuff. So he was stuck right back, not right back. He came in with really what seemed to have good gross motor skills, but when you got down to it, didn't. So he could carry out a few tasks like riding a bike and things really well, but other things weren't so brilliant. So really for him, it was about finding the moments in play that we could encourage those things to happen. So using tongs to pick up things to develop his fine motor, encouraging him to be outside, but not so much on his own. How could I play with others? How can I take turns? To grow his resilience, to try and show him things that he was interested, to open his world up to things he was interested in, that he wanted to find more about, that perhaps were in a book, those kind of things, But his need was largely social emotional in our space. Now it has become more academic, so he still is engaging in the play base, but also in more teacher directed learning as well.
I always love to think about like the social dramatic play and how that is one of the most like amazing ways of engaging the brain when you're playing with your friend and you're imagining this scenario happening and you're taking turns and you're acting and you're playing it out, and how powerful that is for the brain.
Yeah.
And if children aren't getting those opportunities, they're missing out on that
Yeah.
really important development, aren't they? Do you
Yeah.
see lots of, obviously you do the mental stuff, but apart from that, do your students love, playing dramatic play and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, all the time, all
Mm.
the time. And we have a wonderful Bosch area that they do that a lot. Last year's, they're so different because every year is different. Last year we had, I think they were crocodile or dinosaur hunters nearly every day in their cowboy hats and tutus. And they'd spend a lot of their play-based time hunting crocodiles, or just that was their play. This year's group is really into imagining the number agent world when we're not doing it. They really love that kind of side of it. However, you hear lots of let's pretend, and just all sorts of games that they play. The boys love the tutus and they walk around and let's pretend, and they get to be who they are, want to be, and there's no lines drawn. So it's it's really cool.
So, where to now? Maybe let's just deal with this question about the targets. Everyone, do you have, interested to know if you still have targets, for example, level 12 reading after 1 year? If so, do you meet them? Do you do 60 nets?
No, we don't do 6 units. Because it wasn't telling us anything we didn't know, and it was just putting the child through a stressor that they didn't need to be put through. And if I need to do that, then I can engage one-on-one in my play-based room around something that I need to know whenever I like to. So we're checking in with these kids once a week. We know them inside out, and we get, that's one of the beauties of a play-based room. You get to know them really, really well, and you're constantly problem solving about them. So we've had a little girl lately who's been really withdrawn and changed, and we were wondering about that. And then because we get time to just be with them, she revealed to us that mum and dad have been having problems. And I mean, it's just a light bulb moment. Of course she's feeling unsafe, she's feeling worried, she's feeling stressed. So we were able to give her extra love so that attachment at school could be strong, and she could still, and the learning totally, she changed, she was happy again. And so those moments to me are more important than sitting and measuring things I already know about those children. I can do that at any stage. I don't have to do a running record because I read with them individually twice a week. So if I want to make those an assessment, well, there I go, that can be done. I'm very much a believer in the formative stuff and trusting your gut. Our children do meet levels really well. We don't believe in national standards. We never have. That was left us very well placed to move on. We felt the pressure of them, but we never believed in them. They were very much a data crunching exercise. Do they meet level 12? No, probably not. We have one at the moment that is. Do I mind? No. I go back to my old way of thinking before national standards, and I was happy with yellow. And yellow told me that they knew about books and they were starting to read, and I was gosh darn happy with that, and I still am. So I'm more likely to be looking for interest. Yeah, I report to my board. Yeah, do they understand this developmental inside and out? Yep, they do, and they hear it every board meeting. And so they know that after 3 years, if they're not, then there's other things going on. However, we know these kids, remember we've got 210 only. So we know them, all know them, the whole staff know them. We talk about them individually all the time. So the transitioning is strong. We have individual plans for our struggling learners, which we all share. And the teachers will plan what they're going to do to help that child. No different than setting targets. It's just based on the individual, not on a percentage.
So you really wouldn't have the word remedial reading because there's no need.
No, why we're recovering from. No, we don't have reading recovery either. We do have a teacher aide, a learning support teacher aide that will take out after 6 if we feel there's some things they're now interested in they could do with a little bit more time on that individually. But it's not remedial. It's just filling in a few gaps perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Mm.
Just I'm just wary of the time ticking on. I'd really like you to answer the question for teachers that are just starting out. Like where would you recommend that they start?
So I think it's really, really important that we can be honest with ourselves, that we can fall into the trap of always doing what we've always done and blame the children and blame a disorder or blame ADHD or blame dyslexia. We fall into the blame game trap, and we've been allowed to do that. But I think as professionals we need to, and this isn't a journey for me, I'm by no means an expert, but understand more about the brain and how that actually works and what learning is and looks like. And I don't think we're doing enough of that in teacher training. I really don't, and I think they need to catch up big time. But it's about having an honest audit of yourself. What are you doing? What's working? What's perhaps not working for their children? And perhaps it's asking them what they like, what they don't like, what they'd like to see go. I call it the fluff. What's the fluff? We had reading responses because we wanted the kids to be quiet so we could read with groups. We would have said to you, we're doing it because, man, we really want these kids to work to this criteria, and we'd set criteria for them, and these poor chickens would go away and, man, they'd try and get five points on that criteria chart. Really, truthfully, honestly, they were just being quiet because we had to read with groups. So that's fluff. They didn't need to be doing that reading response. Play would have been absolutely fine within there, and so that went. So getting rid of that fluff, I think, is really important. Getting rid of the things that are a management tool. I think we manage children, we over-manage them, and over-managing them, we're not trusting them, and when we do not trust, they don't trust themselves, and it's a spiral downwards. We've got to trust them for them to trust themselves. So that's a huge thing for trusting that. And yeah, just thinking what are we doing, what can go, and beginning with little time slots. So not huge ones, just seeing what happens, doing it for a short time and seeing how it goes. Watching, being free to watch. You don't have to be stuck on this thing, I have to be in the play the whole time, and because then we're directing it. So just letting yourself watch. It's so remarkable to watch them. You miss a lot to the joyfulness of what they're doing, and we see it and we might be, oh God, they're just using that toy in the same way they've always used it. But actually when you go and you can watch them, and they might be throwing a car against a block, but they're watching how far back the car comes when it hits that. And if they go harder, does it come further back? And if they go even harder, does it fly completely over, and where does it end up? And there is amazement in children that we as adults don't have anymore. The wonder and awe of learning something new, and they're doing it all the time. So allowing yourself just to sit and watch those moments, not giving them too much equipment choice is a good one. Our children have a lot, and they perhaps don't need it, or we've weeded out and weeded out and weeded out, and we now have stuff out the back we only bring out occasionally because then it's special and it gets used in different ways, and we boxed stuff up together that went logically together rather than a set of things. So looking at what that can be used, but just really watching them, and perhaps taking some time to emotionally social coach and see how much you get out of those discussions and how much you learn about them. And then having a why. If you're doing it just because everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, then that's not a why. I think I wrote a blog post about that because I really worry that there's a lot of thinking it's going to be an easy mode, but it's not an easy mode of teaching. It's actually really hard, and you're on your toes all of the time, and you're thinking constantly. I don't have a timetable, so it operates as in when it evolves, and I'm constantly backtracking and looking where I've been. But having a why, so my why was developmental. My why was I was diagnosing all these kids with disorders they didn't have. My why was that I needed as a professional to understand more about learning, because I'd taught new entrants for many, many years and hadn't ever clicked some of the stuff I have over the recent time. And then as a school, I really recommend empty classroom day. If you can get your whole school to do it, if it's not a huge school, or even if it is, and just saying we're going to self-direct outside all day and invite your whānau, invite ECE centres, because the learning they do together in age groups is absolutely wonderful. We were really lucky that our playground was already like that, and with we haven't had rules for about 7-8 years. We have habits. We've always called them habits, and slowly we've seen that hammers can come back, saws can come back, all of tree climbing has come back. So they get that time at lunchtime. But empty classroom day is a brilliant way if you've got seniors saying, but it's just play, because the things that they do on those days are joyful. And fun for adults to watch and engage in too. Yeah.
Oh, such good advice. I love your advice of starting small.
Yeah.
That's a key. Love
Yeah.
your advice of the teacher's disposition. So I think we often forget that, it's so crucial that we're learners as well, and that we're working on our dispositions. We're working on standing back and noticing what's happening. I just love that to bits. To finish off with, maybe could you just tell us some of your favourite books, some of the resources that you've found interesting? Because I think that for people who want to go away and have a little bit more, learn more about it, that would be really helpful.
Well, I love Penny Brownlee's stuff, and Peter Gray, Free to Learn. I'm a big Googler, so I don't necessarily read books from cover to cover. I don't know, I struggle to focus, so I prefer to read articles and then look at those things. So my advice would be just Googling play and watching video. YouTube's incredible. The stuff on YouTube is just like, you could dive into there for weeks. But definitely Peter Gray, Free to Learn. I really did enjoy that book, and it gave me a few more of my whys. And it's not play, but for me, understanding how the brain learns to read has been crucial. So Googling that, there's lots of stuff on that, and how the brain actually learns to read as opposed to what we think is happening in the reading process. That's been really breakthrough for me. Decodable books are huge, so I really love those, but they came out of that for me. I get really excited about research, so I'm inclined to read articles and things, not deep, quite, but at the moment, just because for me, a lot of this play-based stuff has to come out of our need for relationships, because we're human beings, and that's what we need, is an emotional connection. There's a lot online about the importance of attachment and the importance of emotional connection. And although I didn't know it at the time, what I was actually seeking, or what I was actually creating in a play-based environment, was the ability for children to attach to an adult that perhaps they didn't have a strong attachment to at home, perhaps. And they are your behaviour kids. They really are, and other behaviours of not focusing. When children are stressed, they can't access that third part of their brain that allows them to problem solve. So they're the kids that they're impulsive, but they don't actually know how to solve it or why they did it, because they're stressed a lot of the time. So what I did within my play-based room was create attachments to the puppets and agency, attachments to me, attachments to each other, and whanaungatanga, there's that relationships, it's all there. So that's my next step, is I want to explore how I'm doing that and what else I could do for emotional coaching that would work for children. But that's my reading at the moment, is around that. But there's lots, so many books. And on the Learning Through Play page, people have recommended books that are really good. Forever Kindergarten's a good one. Yeah.
What about your books? We're really interested in reading some of yours. Where do we find those?
Yeah. So if you go to my blog that I showed before, there's a link to, I actually only sell them in PDF. So, oh no, I lie. I sell The Number Agent in a spiral bound hard copy, which I've got 5 left of because I'm not reprinting because I'm going to review it. I'm going to rewrite it because so much has changed. So it's available on PDF on Teachers Pay Teachers. However, if people contact me through my blog, like it's numberagents@gmail.com. It's my code gmail.com. Yeah, that's my email for Number Agents. I can do a Google share of the book because I know that's American dollars and Teachers Pay Teachers. And there is a New Zealand site for teachers sharing. I'm not sure what it's called, but my resources other than my Number Agents book is on there. And I have two I tend to write, this is me because writing is a passion. So my first book was about power of play in my initial journey. That's really short, but it gives a real rationale around my journey and where I started and what I did initially. And then my next book is a lot about research that I did, a lot about my journey so far up until the end of last year. And for teachers that have management that are perhaps not so supportive, it's got a little bit of a chapter on there about answers for management, about why. It's got a little bit about information for parents and things like that. So they're both on PDF on Teachers Pay Teachers under Number Agent page, or go on my blog and there's links on there. Yeah.
Oh, that is just amazing. Thank you so very much. You're really inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't set out to be, but
I know. Humble and inspiring. We really, really appreciate all that you've shared tonight. And I know that you'd be open to anyone who does have some more questions. I know that we haven't answered all of them. But it is 8:31, so we probably need to start wrapping it up now. But we just so if they wanted to contact you, just use the Number Agents.
Yeah, Facebook page Number Agents, you can like it. I've got a group for people that are using it to try and network because it's very new. Most people have only been using it at the most for a year. So I'm really the be all and all, and I don't want to be. So my aim there is to link people up around the country that are interested in that. So there's a group, but there's also just an open page and I share all sorts. And my blog, everything I've talked about and more, I am an oversharer. So you can go back and read all sorts of things on there. I just share and share and share, and anything I think of. And my next one will be around emotional intelligence and attachment because that's what I'm excited about at the moment.
Yeah. Well, lucky kids, really lucky kids. And I'm actually looking forward to visiting you when I come to Whangarei in November.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you so much, and have a great rest of the week.